Welcome to another breakdown. This is episode 2 in the series. And right here, it's another gameplay from the same session I had the other night, where the previous breakdown was from. This was like 2 games later, I think. And you can see right here, I'm playing Shipmaster again, running the same build. This time I'm not quite opting in for a mini base right away. I'm going to be obviously getting the power extractor like I normally do. Trying to get a little bit of a power advantage here. And then I already have a ghost made, as you can see. Just gathering some supplies because if you remember from the last breakdown, we didn't scout early enough. And thankfully we still won, but I needed to make sure to scout ahead of time. So right there, I'm upgrading my extractor. I'm still just going around grabbing resources. Nothing too out of the ordinary. We are playing 2 rank 50 players. I'm not sure what their competitive ranks are, but again, I'm in Onyx and my buddy's in Champ, so I have to assume that they're probably in that range too. So right here, just upgrading everything, waiting to get a mini base, which I'm about to grab. Maybe I could have sworn I grabbed that mini base, but focusing on these supplies instead. Come on, Isaiah, grab a mini base. You got like 500 supplies. Or just make a ghost. That's cool. So, again, late expansion here. Not grabbing the mini base was right there, and that really would have helped. Just having that early mini base. I had the supplies for it, but I'm going to opt for the one right behind my base instead, and I'm going to go scout and focus on getting that done. What you'll notice here is I don't have Ghost Shield yet. I'm going to queue it right there, but in the event that they have turrets, this Ghost is going to get hit pretty hard. So you can see right there, there's a turret, and I see flamers, so I'm pinging that for Brandon, who's my partner again in this. Pinging that for him to see. Now, I'm going over to the yellow base right here, and I noticed 2 generators, no unit making buildings, which means we're probably going to see Marines, Jackrabbits, something like that, because the yellow player is Jerome and the red player is Kinsano, which was really interesting because I haven't seen a lot of Kinsano recently. But you'll see as this game goes along that Kinsano is still very much viable. Obviously, there are some characters that are better in most ways, but Kinsano definitely still. Inferno is insane. That leader power can still wipe out half a base by itself. So it's pretty damn great. So right here, I'm trying to figure out what to do. I've scouted their mini bases. They're split up pretty evenly there. Just trying to get some ghosts out. I'm preparing because I saw flamers. I'm preparing for them to rush, specifically with flamers. I'm not really expecting anything else. I haven't seen any Jackrabbits. I haven't seen Jerome yet, so I'm assuming that they're going to rush. Now, you'll notice right here, Brandon is pushing up on the mini bases, which is great. An issue, though, with this is that our lack of communication. We didn't think that I would need to push up with him. When, in retrospect, I don't know why I didn't push up with him. Like, we can just take care of things quicker if I send my units and go help him out. I have turrets. If they send anything at me right now, I've got some turrets. And if you're looking at the time right now, we're almost at 5 minutes. We're at 4 minutes and 42 seconds. And we still haven't really pushed up. We've scouted, but we haven't pushed up. So now they're taking map control. We're not doing anything about it. Oh, there you go, Isaiah. Way to finally get that mini base there. So I'm also going for map control here. But they've already taken half the power nodes. We only have 1 power node right now. And you see a Jackrabbit right there taking out my Grunt. I'm just hoping that my Grunt will survive and take it. But right here, I'm seeing that Brandon's pushing forward with his Elite Enforcers. So like a moron, I also go my infantry and vehicle build, which, again, my dysfunctional build. I'm just hoping that it's going to work in this one again. But I mean, a critique here, like, we've already got plenty of infantry from Brandon, and I'm still under the impression that I'm going to need to prepare hunters and stuff. But I don't need to. We already have infantry covered, and so instead of going infantry, I really should have probably gone air, because look at my eco right now. I've got almost 2 grand of each. I need to be getting into units and get a war council down and start upgrading and using the power and really expanding. It's 6 minutes in. They haven't pushed up. I can use this time to expand. But instead we focus on these snipers that aren't really doing anything other than giving them vision. And again, at this point, now I'm at 2 grand, not doing anything. I'm going anti-infantry here, but looking back on it, we haven't seen enough infantry to warrant needing to go full on anti-infantry, and that's just a big mistake on my part. You're gonna see a little bit of that in this game, in probably the next couple breakdowns, depending on how much of that footage I use. But either way, I'm producing anti-infantry. I accidentally make a sensor tower, but trying to make a shield, obviously. But I'm trying to get out Marauders because I like Marauders personally. I think that they're great in an army composition that consists of, if you have anti-infantry and anti-vehicle, I think Marauders can go really well with that as being kind of the main powerhouses. But obviously, it's not something you do the entire game. You want to have, better things than Marauders. But right here, another lack of communication. That's kind of the theme of this episode, to be honest. He is going to handle himself pretty well against his army, but if he says, hey, I'm going to be pushing up, bring your ghosts over, and we'll take them all out, then he can save a lot of his units by just waiting for my ghosts, and then we can attack them together. But what happens instead is he loses about half his army there, and all my ghosts die right there, and I'm not even paying attention. I'm not sure what kills them, but all of a sudden they're all dead. And I look over and I see Hornets, and I don't really have anything to counter Hornets. So I'm just going to start pumping out some Reavers and hoping that I can get them in time to counter. I did expand, but it's at this point they're bringing their armies over, and I'm not sure how much that expansion's really going to help other than keeping them from grabbing a base there. But I'm trying to get, kind of anti-infantry, because I remember they had flamers and I saw some snipers, just trying to counter anything that they throw at us. And I apologize in advance. This game does go for a little bit. It's not more than half an hour, but it's a long game, but I feel it's worth critiquing all the way through, because you can see the progression of our thought processes and understanding where we messed up, because spoiler, we don't win this game. I'm going to tell you that right now, and you'll see why soon. So right here, I have my units over here. I've got a couple of Reavers, and I'm saying, okay, I'm going to take out his Hornets. And right off the bat, these Reaver missiles come flying in, and I am wrecking these Hornets. I mean, just a couple of Reavers are just taking out these Hornets. But a good micro by the red player. He's moving them away from my units, and he has more forces coming in that I don't see. So all of a sudden, his Flamers come in, and they cut off my Reavers, and I lose all my Reavers. And that takes away any of the anti-air that I have, and I have to all of a sudden grab displacement, try to get some of that army out of there while I'm rebuilding my Reavers. But, I mean, that yellow army is formidable. He's got a lot of Warthogs, and we've only got a couple Banshees from my partner, because if you remember, half his army got wiped out, and he's trying to transition into Banshees. I'm still making Rangers. Again, I don't know how many Rangers I really need at this point. You see some infantry there, but you only need 5 or 6 Rangers to counter these kind of things. Brandon is going to lose this expo. I don't have enough to counter all these Flamers and Flame Warthogs, so I'm going to start pulling back. I'm just going to get my units back to his base, so that way when they push, because we see them coming around, when they start to push, we can have all our units together for once. And hopefully fend off their attack. And I'm going to keep making hunters. because I see that he just keeps bringing in Warthog after Warthog, and the Mantis is, it's going to be weak to Hunters. But if you notice, I have still a ton of eco. I'm not really doing a whole lot with it. I'm making a couple units here and there, getting an upgrade here and there, but like I need to be investing in it more. I need to scrap one of these, supply buildings or something and throw down like another raid camp, another foundry, so I can get more units out. I have 2 expansions and I'm working off of 2 unit producing buildings. That's not what you want to be doing. I need to be getting more units out because they're coming at us pretty hot. Now, you see their shield generator because I'm worried about that expansion getting attacked while all of our units are together at Brandon's base. But I'm still going into Marauders. I'm still getting these units that are okay in the early game, but are going to start getting outclassed very soon here. You see all the Hornet. I mean, look at that push. Look at that army that's coming in. And look what I have to counter it. I mean, I have anti-infantry and anti-vehicle, but not enough. I don't have enough units to counter all this, and so what ends up happening here is you can see my all units right now. I've lost a bunch of my army. Now, thankfully, I have more guys coming in, but I guess I didn't lose as much as I thought I did. I guess I was on local units. But either way, I'm still sitting at 80 maximum pop, which, I mean, if you look at the army that's coming in, I'm going to need more. So I grab reinforcements, and unfortunately, you'll see I'm not taking advantage of the reinforcements when I get it, but we'll get to that in a minute here because you can see both those armies coming in hot, and I've got a couple turrets. I still have an open spot right there. There we go. Get another turret on there. So you can see right here, we're holding this off pretty well, but look at our compositions. We are heavy anti-vehicle, which is fine in this situation specifically, but I've already got 8 hunters, and essentially Brandon is doing the same comp as I am, because we're just trying to hard counter these guys. But this puts us in a bad situation because now they see that all we have are a bunch of hunters, and they can just go full on air units basically and wipe us out if they want to. And I'm starting to get a little bit nervous, so I displaced these guys away, which was a poor move because we have all anti-vehicle. We have the advantage that specifically counters all these Warthogs, and I basically save the yellow army by doing that, because I'm getting worried for no reason. So I'm saying, okay, well, let's push up. My bad. Let's just push up and try to take this army by surprise. So you can see his units coming back. I push back for some reason instead of catching them off guard. I have a whole army. Just this lack of aggressiveness. I'm waiting around, and you can look right now. Look at my eco. Look at the amount of units I have. I don't have max population, and I'm still sitting on all of this cash, not doing anything with it. And it is hard for me to watch. I get upset at myself just watching this. And obviously I'd like to post breakdowns of me actually winning so I can show what works, but I think it's also important to show what doesn't work. And right now, I have a whole army just sitting here not doing anything. I'm going to send a grunt out to scout, but I mean, we have such a huge advantage over yellow right now. If we just pushed to his bases, we could easily wipe out his whole army. All he had were vehicles. But instead, we're waiting around. I notice he has an expansion, but that doesn't matter. I don't have anything over there to kill it because all my units are still on my base waiting around. And I'm sure there's going to be, the people watching this are going to say, dude, push. And I'm like, I know, like watching it right now, it's really hard to see myself just amassing these units and doing nothing with them. I hope that from here on out, in the rest of my games, I can actually be aggressive because I think that's our biggest downfall. We're taking too long to push with our starting armies. We're taking too long to get our starting armies in general, but if you're starting to push after like the 4.5-5 minute mark, you're taking too long. You need to be hitting them sooner, taking out mini bases at least, just doing something to hamper their hamper, like a laundry hamper. That's probably not the right word. You need to be doing something to stop their progress. So a great attack here by Brandon. He's taking out Yellow's units. I think he caught him off guard here, but I'm not helping. I'm sitting. Oh God, all my units are just sitting here doing nothing, and all of a sudden Brandon's units get infernoed. and I've got nothing to send over there. All my units are at my base, and by the time they get there, all of his units are going to be dead anyways. So a big miscommunication from both of us. He was pushing up a little bit, but more importantly, I'm not communicating like, hey, I'm trying to like turtle a little bit, like let's try to just kind of sit back a little bit. He's trying to push, I'm not, and we're miscommunicating, and that's the biggest fault in this match is our lack of communication, other than my waste of resources. I mean, I have so many resources and I'm not doing anything with them. But right here is where Shipmaster shows his weaknesses, which there's probably some hardcore Shipmaster fans that are not a fan of that statement. Like, Shipmaster doesn't have any weaknesses. It's like, well, here's the problem. When Shipmaster is backed into a corner, there's not very much he can do. He can displace units. He has glassing beam, but Shipmaster is a lot better at attacking and like flanking and catching them off guard and teleporting locusts, which I've been kind of trying to get to that point. You can see I have a couple made, but their armies are right on my front door. I can't really do anything. So right now my locusts are sitting back, basically acting as, just kind of snipers, just to help out if they push. I have something constantly firing that's away from the battle. So I've got some elite rangers there, and that kind of just pisses off the yellow army. I'm trying to displace the snipers here because that's going to be detrimental to everything we have. And that's, again, the weakness of our army composition is... Oh, God, I'm still going Marauders. That's the weakness to our composition is it's so heavily on infantry. They just have to throw a bunch of snipers at us. Even not a bunch, just a handful of them. And right here, I'm trying to push them like a moron, and all of a sudden, there's all the sniper bullets. And there goes a couple of hunters, and I'm trying to extract them out. And I accidentally click X on the thing there, and that teleports them back. And they just get sniped back out again, and I lose a couple hunters. So, huge choke right there. I lose half my army right there. And I've only got a couple Marauders being made. Like, if I was smart, I'd put some Wraiths in there. Wraiths are going to be better than Marauders. But, I mean, they're right... Oh, God, they're right on my doorstep. My turrets aren't even upgraded. So, I grab Spirit Support so that way I can call in some Veterancy units. But, I mean, Spirit Support alone is not going to be enough to... I mean, look at this army. Look at the healing that those Nightingales are creating. Like, Nightingales are really great units. I personally believe that. Nightingales are awesome units. They heal very quickly, and you only need a handful of them. And look at the healing that's being done. Look how much extra damage we're having to do, all while I only have a couple engineers that I just dropped in. And I mean, they're rinsing my base. You can see them. They're just we're hitting their units pretty hard, but the damage they're doing to my base from all angles is pretty extreme. And at this point, I'm panicking. I'm like, I just need to get more units. I have all these resources. I'm finally waking up and seeing I have all these resources. So I'm making some ghosts because I just need to get some units over there because I'm not getting enough DPS. But, I mean, these hornets are killing me. I'm just trying to get anything out to stop these all these units. And thankfully, you can see we hold off this attack decently well. They do wipe out a little bit of my base. But we hold it off decently well, enough to where we're not completely screwed at this point. But I mean, any veteran player is gonna understand that we don't have map control. They've got snipers right at my base, just firing at my units. We don't have control of anything. They have all the power nodes. We have no expansions other than mini bases. Brandon is being courteous and giving me some stuff. He's going to try to start pushing a little bit with the Banshees, but I'm not aware of this. I'm thinking he's flying back to his base or something, maybe scouting, but he ends up pushing their base a little bit. And I start to push up at the same time, but I'm not going with him. So right here, this army, we could take out. We could absolutely do this, but instead... I went the other way, and instead of pulling back, Brandon continued to micro, and look at the Wolverines coming in. They're just going to start absolutely rinsing all of his Banshees. And now we're in a position again where we're behind. We've been behind almost this whole game, and you're looking at it now and you're thinking, I mean, how are you going to come back from this? Our only hope right now is to just try to get them while they're rebuilding their armies. But instead, like cowards, we fall back more and more and more, and we don't do anything about it. We just keep holding ourselves back from actually pushing out and doing something. You know, if, for example, if he had flown his Banshees to the other side where all those units weren't, you know, he could get a maybe knock out a couple buildings or something on the red guy's expo, and then, you know, fly them back or teleport them back because he is RB. But instead, we're just delaying the inevitable for ourselves, getting a bunch of units stacked up like we did in the last attack. But this is just, I mean, they're just upgrading their stuff more and more and more and more, and we're not. I'm still working off of 2 buildings that supply units. I'm not getting units out fast enough. They are getting units out much faster than I am. I don't have enough to counter this. And I'm just hoping that we can somehow hold off their attack. But we saw Wolverines coming in. We saw Vultures, which are going to rinse bases. A lot of air units, and I don't really have much anti-air at this point. I have a couple Reavers, I think. But none of my stuff is going to be enough. We're hoping that we can take him. So he's flying his Banshees back over, and he's going to notice in just a second the yellow has started making a base on his side, where his expo used to be, which limits us pretty badly. I have vision on where my expo was, but I'm not taking it because I know it's just going to get pushed, and it's going to be a waste of resources. Whether that's actually the case or not, I don't know. It might have been beneficial to actually get that expo, but I'm just kind of trying to get an army built up so I can hold them off again. And then we're hoping that if we can hold off this next attack, then we can finally push. We're hoping that we'll be at a point that we can push. But you'll notice that I don't really have a lot of eco going. I'm waiting around for enough resources to make any sort of units. And I have some locusts made that I could teleport across the map, but I'm spending all my power on everything else because my army is full of power-intensive units. So I'm just out of resources, and my locusts are just sitting there not doing anything. So they're just sitting back, and I'm thinking about glassing beam, but they're just gonna move out of the way of it anyways. So there's no point there. But I mean, right here they just start to push up, and I mean, look at my army composition. Like, I've got ghosts, 2 reavers. Like, I've got nothing. I've got 2 armies coming at me, and then a beautiful inferno. I mean, it doesn't take much to do that, but it is. I mean, it's a perfect move. You're going to start taking out all my eco at this point. I do have a nice army of locusts, but locusts alone with a couple of other units is not going to be enough. He's just rinsing my base. That Inferno, like I said at the beginning, Inferno is still nasty. It is a great leader power, and I'm going to try to displace the anti-air here, but I move them like 8 feet, and they're just going to come right back. So it's really, really poor decision there. I'm trying to use extraction. You can see if you notice, extraction will heal your base too. So that's why I use extraction the way I do. But I mean, looking right here, half my base is already destroyed. I have little going for me, and then you see Brandon's got like 4 Banshees, and we're going up against a Condor and anti-air and Warhogs and a Jerome Mantis, and at this point we know it's GG. We've known for a while it's GG. We're just trying to stay in the game, see if we can do anything, and at this point I'm just kind of sacking my units. There's not really much more I can do. I wanted to take out the Condor just for my own pride, but it's not going to happen. We did end up taking it out, but that was from Brandon, not I. So right there, that's just kind of cherry on top, they call an Omega team and take all my units, and that leaves me with nothing. I got nothing to counter that. And you'll see all my units just die right here. I'm at this point, it's over. And Brandon's going to sack his base. I'm going to charge in, Reaver Stomp Omega team with my Lone Reaper, and that's the game right there. You'll see the self-destruct right there. And that's about it. So I don't really like to, I won't do hopefully too much of these defeats unless I just can't seem to get a win. But I mean, shout out to Corrupted Lungs and Corrosive Nos. Those are some great players. Really great job. And yeah, so that's all for that one. The big issue was communication, but that's something that I'm going to be working on. And hopefully in the next one, we'll see some improvements. So take it easy.